Yo, what's up, everybody? It's Dre. I had a question that I wanted to answer real quick, and it was it hard for me to, I guess, incorporate the love of a good woman into my life? And I would say yes. It was probably the hardest thing that I've ever done. And it's my greatest achievement, my greatest personal, I guess, the greatest personal goal that I've ever set out and achieved. And it's the most rewarding thing and the smartest thing I've ever done. All right, so I want to explain why it was hard for me to do. This has been a question that's been asked by quite a few men, and so few young men who have achieved some level of success, and maybe a woman or a serious relationship is the thing that they keep stumbling over, or they find themselves in cycles that are unproductive around relationships. And so I'm going to address it. I'll give you what happened with me, and then from that, hopefully you can take some gems and jewels to use on your own. So in my 20s, I was sort of the quote unquote playboy type of guy. Party, I love to party. I even still love to party now that I'm married with a wife. And we like to go out and we like to dance and have fun and do things like that. But most of my 20s, I was that guy. I was the guy that maybe women would not take as seriously, and the ones that did, like, I had certain issues that made me feel as though they couldn't be with me on a seriously really care about me or love me. I sort of felt, I would say, underlying under it all, subconsciously unlovable, or that I didn't deserve it. So instead of deal with one woman on a super deep level, what I did for the most part was play the field and keep my options open. And that led to a cycle. And whenever you have a cycle in your life that is not what you want it to be, and that it's like sort of terrible, and it's bad, and it keeps repeating over and over and over again, the problem is you. That would be the first distinction that I would give you. So I had some issues. I had trust issues from, being a foster kid, not knowing what a relationship, a good one, would look like. I never had one modeled for me in my life. And so I always had a little trepidation around that. I was real good at making money, really good at serving people, really good at being, the exception of what like a black man in America should be. I was like, that guy. And just kept accomplishing things. And I found that the cycle that I was in with women was that, I would meet a woman, we'd be physically attracted to each other. She'd check off some things on my list. I had a list too in my 20s. And, we would get to the point of the relationship where things got uncute. And we'd have to define where we would go, and, we'd have to be lock and step on one accord. So she'd want progress. I would have to agree to giving her more of myself, and she would have to agree to giving more of herself, like that sort of thing. So the women in my relationships in the cycle, what they would do they would fall for me, and then they would ask me for more, and I would say, no, you give me more. So prove to me that you really love me, then maybe I could give you more of who I am. And maybe I can be all in and committed. So it would work like the first few months, the relationship would be good. It would be mostly physical. Then it would hit that point where you got to make a decision, what to do. And at that point, I would demand more of the woman. She would try to prove herself, and then we'd hit some rocky patches, and then I'd say, oh, it's not worth it. And then I would basically find a way to sabotage the relationship and, just go on my way, because I felt like I had a lot of options. As a successful black man in America, or a successful man, period, you have a lot of options in America. So I just, would quit the relationship You know, I feel like I invested what I invested, didn't get the things that I wanted out of the relationship, and so I moved on. And I did that callously, but at some point I decided that I wanted more. So I would say it was about 2007. Yeah, the beginning of 2007. I said if I meet a woman, then I would try something different. Because after every relationship I was in, I was left like sort of empty, sort of hollow. Like a little more of my life energy was getting taken. At least that's how I felt. I didn't know how they felt because I didn't ask. But I decided that maybe I would just give 100% of myself to the person who showed me the potential. I would throw out my list too. She doesn't have to fit all these criteria. Like the good looking, well, she had to be good looking. That was one thing I wasn't willing to compromise on. I think all of us don't have, all of us have some things that probably we shouldn't negotiate, like have all your teeth. Like that might be important. So anyway, I decided to cut out the things that were non-essential off my list. And maybe I'm left with like 4 or 5 things, you know, like a woman who could speak and I could communicate with, somebody that I could grow with, somebody that I had fun with. And that was really important to me, that the woman I was with was someone I felt I could be myself with and I felt like I could have fun with. That was super important to me. Because at the time I was selfish and I didn't want to change for anything. That's another thing you have to do, is you have to be real with yourself and see what it is about you that makes the relationships not work. Because every time a relationship doesn't work, you have a hand in it. Most people think that these things happen to us, or we break up and as a man, our relationships don't work because of the girl. But we each play a part in it, both the man and the female. So I would say, let me get back to the story. Back in 2007, that was the first year that I said I'm going to give the best of myself to a female who is plausible, like one who I feel compelled to share myself with and to grow with. And so it wasn't, the whole year passed and, you know, I was just having relationships, like sort of just like low-key, casual type of relationships. This time I'm 28 years old. So, you know, you start to ask yourself, like, yeah, if a good girl passes by, I'm willing to invest. So I said that to myself. And then I said, she's going to come this year. So I demanded that by the end of the year, I would meet my person. So I met Nicole in like October of that year. And we never really, you know, we never really thought too deeply about it. She had a boyfriend at the time, and you know, I had a stable to clear out, sort of. Hell, it sounds messed up, but that's what it was, right? And to like being around her, like we were just friends at first, it sort of felt like she was someone that I never got tired of. She was someone who made me think, because she just thought way differently about regular things than I did. And that was intriguing to me. Like I wanted a woman with a difference of opinion, somebody who could expand how I think. That was important to me. I'm like a lifelong learner. And that kind of thing was important to me. She was a sort of person that liked books. She had just as much books as her TV. She didn't even have a VCR. No. Was it? Not a VCR. She didn't even have a DVD player when I met her, because she devoted so much time to learning and investing in herself. So we sort of grew together, but we were both like super selfish. I'm gonna do a video with her so she could tell you guys about like her things, but I was selfish. I was always working, thinking about money, thinking about investments, thinking about hustling, thinking about my cars, thinking about everything that was going to keep me good, like what made me feel happy. And when we first got together, it was like, she's a powerful being, I'm a powerful being. We were like, there was clashes. It was about 3 years into the relationship that we realized it wasn't going to work. And this is something we haven't really told a lot of people, but we were basically broken up. And I never really faced that real deal thing that happened. Like, why were we going to break up? And one of the things that I would say was accountable, 100% accountable for us being breaking up, is that I sort of had a control thing going on. Like, I liked my life set a certain way. I liked my apartment set a certain way. I liked everything set a certain way. And here she was with her beautiful self, like coming to mess my world up, coming to mess my shit up. And I felt kind of low-key, subconsciously, like I had to protect what was mine. And it wasn't until I realized that the only way that I could effectively be with another human being was if I surrendered who I was, so that I can have the sweetness, which is the relationship. And I couldn't even see myself being like a control person, always thinking that I'm right. Like, I didn't see myself like that. But she pointed out those things to me because we were very different people. She's the kind of person that if I tell her what to do, she'll do something exactly opposite, just because she doesn't like to be controlled. And I'm like a control person. That's why I'm a trainer. That's why I'm a bodybuilder. That's why my beard is always neat. That's why, I got the bald head and everything. But control wasn't what was needed. I needed to surrender all of my old ways of being in order to mesh with a queen. That's a big giveaway that I could give to you guys. Gotta be willing to surrender the old you, the old single you. Even though it was fun, even though it was powerful, even though it was popular, those times were good, you have to be able to surrender that and show a willingness to grow, And so when I did that, that's when the cycle sort of crashed. She didn't have to prove to me anymore how much she loved me and cared about me. When I was surrendering my ego out of the whole equation, I wasn't looking for that validation from another person anymore. So my girl didn't have to tell me or show me that she was ride or die or loyal, or that she had to be anything. She didn't have to be anything, because at that point when I surrendered to becoming someone different, it was almost like I gave her a blank slate to work with. And I gave myself a blank slate to create something that wasn't there before, which is the union of me and Nicole. A lot of guys don't want to surrender. We're just full of ego. We always got to be right. Things have to work out and be like the way we want it to be. Those are good male traits, masculine traits, but if you want something that's going to really last, really stay, really be a dope growing experience, you got to give it up, guys. Got to give it up. So over time, I actually came to her and said, I'm sorry for who I was in the relationship up until this point. And, we hashed it out. We talked. Communication is something that, we built this relationship on free. We sort of make it a no judgment zone too. I don't judge her as harshly as I once did, and she doesn't judge me as harshly as we once did too, because we realize that how we see each other is not the absolute truth. It's just a perception. So when I have a problem with something she does, now I come and I say, hey, it appears to me like this. Just that little change in the vernacular, the language. Before I would have said, hey, you're doing this. And this is messed up because of this. In that very accusatory tone, just a change in the tone. Like, you did this, and I perceived it like this, and I think it came out like that. Like, that little piece of wordplay is what fixed our communication. It allowed us to grow and made me a married man. And so you got to surrender to being bigger, because the only reason to accept a woman into your life and to want to do this with her is because she makes you bigger. She makes you better. And the sum of you two together is better than anything you could have put together yourself. And that's that. It was hard as hell, but it was worth it. And I'm happy that I was able to look inside, gauge myself, see how I was messing up, because I ended a cycle, like a cycle that was maybe 10 years in the making. you know, and I dated a lot of women in that time period, and nothing would have ever changed. If I didn't change myself, then I would have missed out on marrying my wife. If I didn't look at myself and be real, then I couldn't see her, and I couldn't be with her. So put some comments in the bottom and see if there's anything I said that's real or resonated with you, anything that makes you look inside and say, man, if I change this, maybe I would find my partner. Or you might be able to go back and say, hey, this girl was the girl that was for me, but I wasn't ready, so I think I could fix this, and now I could have that. So you never know. Let me know. Write something in the comments. This is Dre. As always, you're greater than any past circumstance. You're greater than any past conditioning. And ultimately, you are responsible for sharing the best version of yourself with the world. Peace.